Folks, hello and welcome to the Tavern Chat Podcast, the vidcast, the Hescast. I am your host, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. So, I was digging into the Dungeon Crawl board game, and Don Semora reached out to me. So, not be it one to miss an opportunity to find out more about Dungeon Crawl board game, Wizard Tower games, my bad, um, and basically who owns the rights to such. I basically conducted an informal interview with Don via email, and he was very gracious. I asked if it would be okay for me to share this on the cast or on the blog, and he said yes. So I am sharing it now. Little truth in advertising up front. Um, Don apparently is going to be self-publishing some OSR adventures later on in this month, January 2022. In February 2022, he has offered to forward me copies so I can take a look at them, give some feedback. So I will. All right. But you should all know I don't solicit material for review purposes. But if somebody offers it, that's fine. But Don's not going to get preferential treatment like anybody else whose stuff I purchase on my own. But I do appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to it because OSR stuff is always interesting. So let's go on to the email. Hello, Tenkar. Please find answers to your questions. I'm also adding a few voluntary answers. Answers will be in red caps, not yelling, just making sure the answers are clear to read. It is my understanding, this is coming from Tenkar here, it is my understanding that the local PD does not have a copy of any such complaint filed with them. And I'm fairly certain the FBI took no complaint, having dealt with them in a professional capacity over the years, even with Rach, when she was the director of a drug and alcohol treatment program in Midtown, a hoity-toity place. And they got hit with ransomware, and they were asking for well over $100,000 in Bitcoin. The FBI was just kind of like, no, you got to make an online complaint and we'll get back to you. And they never got back to her in the months before she left that job. So my faith in the famous but incompetent, the Federal Bureau of Investigation is really, really small. In any case, from Don, well, I never said I called the local police. I believe Michael, who used to work for TSR, indicated he indeed called the Lake Geneva police. I'm sure he would clarify that as fact. Michael is no longer with TSR. However, I don't believe Black Tower Games, Wizard Tower, sorry, I'm saying Black Tower Games. Wizard Tower Games is located in Lake Geneva. And the complaint would have to go where the company is now. The way it should happen is they should take the complaint and then forward it on via intercity correspondence. NYPD used to do this. I'm assuming Lake Geneva has the same. But I had one of the taverners was reaching out to the local PD where Wizard Tower Games is incorporated, and there was no record for such a complaint. But again, it could be taken time if the complaint was made in the wrong jurisdiction. What I said was I filed a report with the ICC Federal FBI complaint site. I indeed did this. Okay. And I showed it on my one video on my YouTube. So as far as whoever you meant the FBI reference above, can I say to, as I did not know who you talked to, I must know the FBI don't give a shit. They could be overworked. I'm not, or they could just be the FBI. However, I showed my report on my video that I made, or should I say I took a screenshot of it, and I don't doubt it. I just don't believe that the FBI is going to investigate, and I don't know what the local PD is going to do. But in any case, over the weekend, it's back to me. I was sent a variety of links to articles detailing certain events in your past. I was in the process of connecting such articles to the creator of Dungeon Crawl when someone sent me a copy of your deposition. I'm going to preface this with, and after having read the deposition, I got to agree with Don. I don't really see how it's relevant. But I did not see what my past would have to do with my game design. I know some names that I think Who sent you links, etc.? Uh, Probably not the ones that you think they are. I'm only saying that because these are people who have sent me links in the past about other stuff. So these are people just like digging. However, I did own a publishing business and I did sell. It was mine to sell. And if you have specific questions, I am happy to answer specifics. Deposition was a long read. I've given depositions. Uh, Actually, I was sued for $2 million as a cop, and I gave a deposition. And God, those things don't end when you're giving them. However, in the end, things that happened 9 years ago or 20 years ago have no bearing on my today. If you're wanting to create some salacious content, I cannot stop you. Of course, I, however, would just ask that you do that. Ask you, what does that serve other than damage something I worked hard for that has nothing to do with things happening a decade or 2 decades past? Like I said, the information, if folks want to dig, is going to be there. You can certainly dig it out. I'm not going to link to it. But Don does have a good point. It is the past, and the deposition. Um, he's really more of a witness in this than anything else. So, yeah, I'm glad that Don reached out to me, and glad that Don gave answers. Right? These are pretty complete answers. So, thank you. So now I filed it with, while your history certainly has some relevancy, I believe the community is more interested in current events, so I have some questions regarding such. How likely do you think it is that the anonymous threatening email is from someone that has a prior history with you? The email, listen, there's a couple of theories that can come up with an email, but I would say probably the two most popular are somebody had a prior beef with Don, or somebody thinks that TSR is the devil incarnate. I don't think they're the devil incarnate. So, all right, I just think that they're shitty. There's different levels of awfulness, and they're just on that shitty level. I doubt it is from anyone in my past. The email was obviously designed to push me from dealing with TSR. I took the stance I did as I do not like online bullying. None of us really do. And I made that clear on my video. Hindsight is 2020, as they say. Looking back, I admit I think I over-dramatized it, etc. I would have handled it differently. However, it stands as it is now. And that's, again, when you can answer these questions and partially throw yourself under the bus, which is this, falling on the sword a bit, I got to respect that. And yeah, I think uh, it was certainly something that was there to get attention. And I don't know how much of it was all Don and how much of it was TSR. What is done, right? I don't know if there's been any follow-ups to it. I don't believe so. Don didn't mention any. TSR hasn't mentioned any. So I followed. If you don't feel such is likely, why? See above. Okay, he explained it. Is Dungeon Crawl copyright you and or Black Tower Games? And of course, I screwed up there. I keep on wanting to say Black Tower. Maybe because the tower is black on the TSR Con graphic, or just blame it on my brain fog, which is still fucking hurting. Is Dungeon Crawl copyright you and or Wizard Tower Games? I'll correct myself on Falling the Sword. Is it copyright Lanasa/TSR? So, I developed Dungeon Crawl DC with the intent to release it via Wizard's Tower, and TSR made an offer to purchase it. After much discussion, TSR purchased it. So, basically, Don was like the design house, okay, and then he sold his design to TSR. Fair enough. They own it 100%. I'm on the box as a designer, as I designed it, so it would be copyright TSR, etc. However, inside I am cited as the original creator. Once a company buys a game, at least in my opinion, they are allowed to modify as needed. Once they modify it from my original content, it becomes innately theirs, and that's fair enough too. I can't argue with that point. When you sell your copyright to someone else, it does become theirs. All right. And if they modify it enough that it's no longer your vision, yes, you did the original creation, but somebody else made it into what it currently is. Is Dungeon Crawl a project that you had created prior and were looking for a publisher, or was it created on spec? Well, I kind of got the answer there above, but I developed it a few years ago. This is Don. Never really did anything with it, and once TSR purchased it, they made changes they wanted, and I added them to the game as they asked. So it was created prior to their buying it, but I think with all the changes they have made, it has been modified per spec. So down to the initial design, TSR modified it. It's a child of multiple parents, I guess. If you are the creator, main designer of Dungeon Crawl, and this one is a valid question, why is Ernie Gygax's name so permanently displayed on ads for such? And I've had people ask me this question, or I've seen these comments made on Facebook. TSR added modified rules for the game. They added modified PC cards, situation cards. Ernie gave feedback on changes, improvements, etc. This is why he's on the box, etc. And I admit Ernie was enjoyable to deal with. Ernie's a great person to talk with. I've had conversations with Ernie in the past. He really is a great guy to give ideas and feedback for our project. So, my follow-up question was pretty much answered above. How much input? Because I gave all these questions of one big, and then Don came back with them. How much input did Ernie have in the design of the game? Fairly extensive. I dealt with Ernie via email and also on video about rules, changes, ideas, etc. His knowledge, I think, is in the end made it a better game. All right. So for those, including myself, who were wondering why Ernie's name was so prominently displayed on it, it wasn't just a slap on to get attention. Ernie had a lot of input into this, into the final version of the game. Let me bring this one up. All right. There's a typo on the card shown in promo images of the game. Who edited the game? This was a big thing when TSR was showing off, and it looked sharp. Don't get me wrong; the game looks sharp, but when your promo card has typos and poor grammar, it doesn't. When that's what you choose to highlight, it makes people nervous. The initial images posted by TSR were of the test product. All right, fair enough. The beta game that I made and did test play with, etc. So it was pre-edit. And there's your answer. So there were spelling and grammatical errors. Since those images, there has been extensive pre-production edits performed on the game by people at TSR. I'm going to make a personal comment right now. As long as that person at TSR is not Justin, I've seen his writing. Justin, I'm sorry. You should not be an editor. You should have your work edited before you put it up. There, I said it. In fact, as of today, the game has had full content edits and is in print production as I speak. So, as somebody who was not all that interested in the Dungeon Crawl game initially, having had these questions answered by Don, I'm a bit more interested. I'm not trying to do free advertising for TSR, but I'm certainly, my interest is piqued. So now I followed up with these questions are more relevant than your past, which I will certainly need to address, and I did. But won't need to focus on as I can answer many of these questions, many of the questions of the community, which Justin has answered these questions. And I also, that's right, Justin, Don answered these questions. And I did say, feel free to share this with Justin. You should know I don't spend nearly as much time on him, TSR, as he suspects. It's the community as a whole that does. I just collect what they send me and connect the dots. And that is true. And I don't identify the members of this community unless they ask me to. But they are awesome. They are great. They are numerous. No, seriously, it just makes my job so much easier. So, Don ended with a few points, and I do find these points interesting, and certainly they should be addressed and at least brought up. He wants to add a few things. Point number one from Don: I do not work for TSR. I did some design work for them, and I sold my board game to them. In all fairness, TSR was always decent to me. Fair enough. And like I said, Don is going to be publishing his own OSR modules in the coming weeks, and I will let you know how they look, once I've read them. Two, I do not call or clear anything with TSR Justin. I am my own person, and TSR and company are their own. Again, fair enough. I think it speaks that line speaks for itself. Three, Justin, like everyone else, has his opinions, ideas, etc. I have my own, you have your own. I always try to judge others on how they treat me and vice versa. Okay, and it appears that Justin treated Don fairly well. So, four, I want to do what I love. There's design games. I am not trying to hurt anyone. I think my game design and writing will be judged on its own merits. Well, again, and to put things in perspective, right? I think this game is, maybe I'm off, $50 as opposed to the 140 and change I had to put down to get Wonderfield's Giant Lands. Actually, come on Tuesday, folks. Expect. I don't know if we're going to do an unboxing, but expect something. To close this, I know you do not like Lanasa. I certainly don't, and I'll repeat my main reason for not liking Justin, aside from him kind of acting like a con man. He threatened me with legal action. He threatened to take me to court for my coverage of TSR and the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum. When you threaten me with legal action, you kind of gained my attention. Gail did the same. Gail Gygax back in a couple of years ago when I was still working, and threatened me with legal action. Usually that tells me that there's more than just that little bit of bone that I'm gnawing on. So it's just the easy way. If you want to get me on my attention, that's the easy way. Fairly obvious based on some of your content. However, I am not interested in personal abuse or issues. I am not a sub company of TSR. Now, that's a question a lot of people have been asking. And I didn't ask it. I should have asked it. And I'm very glad that Don brought that up. So, because I am not an employee, I am my own entity. I have not ventured into the fray of things said, etc., as it is none of my business. I cannot give commentary on things I was not there for, or for things others say. Hope these questions suffice. Don. I think Don did a great job answering my questions, answering questions that I should have asked too. So above and beyond. So what does it mean? It means that, listen, I suspect that I think Dungeon Crawl is again going from memory, print run of 300 that they're expecting. I would expect the first print's going to sell out, and not just because the TSR army, but if Don did the work on it that he says he did, and I believe him, and that this is something that was just basically looking for a publisher, I expect it's going to be good. Is it going to be great? I don't know. Is it going to be something I would spend my money on? Probably for a review copy to be able to review it. Sure. Would I give TSR my mailing address? Me personally, I don't think Justin would take too kindly. But for you, as a viewer, might not be a bad thing. And I should have asked what ages it was appropriate for. It looks to me like it might be a bit more of an advanced version of the classic Dungeon board game, which would be awesome, right? My niece loved Dungeon for a couple of years. I think she's kind of outgrown it now. But well, she loved it when she always had to win. Kids. But again, thank you to Don, seriously, for answering the questions and these are questions that I had people asking me if I knew these answers, and I didn't, so I put them up, and Don answered them. So again, thank you. Folks, we are still in the midst of the world of what? COVID. Remind you, I am just a gamer that talks on YouTube. I am not a medical professional. I do not give medical advice. I don't care personally whether you're masked or unmasked or vaxxed or unvaxxed, because I am vaxxed and I am boosted. Okay. So I know what I've done to protect myself. But you should, if you haven't done such yet, talk to a medical professional that knows your medical history and get their advice. Right? How do you make an informed decision? You get advice from people who are experts in that field. I am not an expert in medicine. All right. I'm not giving advice on vaccines or masks. It's not for me to do. All right. But use your common sense. Other than that, be safe, be well, God bless, roll those dice, and I will be back again tomorrow, this Wednesday, 8 p.m. on the Talking Crit live stream. We will have John Peterson, yes, the historian of D&D, on. Expect a lively show. I expect a lot of comment. I expect a lot of people in the live stream watching us. So that will be Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Myself and Bad Mike joined by Mr. Peterson. All right, folks. Laters.